welcome back to Beyond the Cowl, and today we are making the tulip graph, and we're going to be making it in bobble stitch, so it'll have lots of nice texture, and you will have just seen that on the title screen, the picture of it there. So first things first, you will need a copy of the graph, and that is available in our Facebook group, and there's a link in the description below to the Facebook group Beyond the Cowl. If you go there, you can find a copy of the pattern and chart. So you will need a copy of that either to download it onto your devices on your screen, or to print out a physical copy. Okay, now if you're using it on a phone or tablet, you might wish to have something like a sticky note or a piece of paper to cover your screen on the rows when you've done them. Sticky notes work brilliantly for that. If you have a physical paper copy, then you will, again, you could use a sticky note, you could use a ruler to keep a track of your rows, and just put your ruler sort of alongside the row that you're on, okay, and keep a track that way. And the other way is to use a pencil and just tick off the boxes as you go along. Okay, so when you print out the chart, the graph, there are two. The first one is for corner to corner, which I showed you how to do corner to corner on the paw print graph, so have a look in the playlist for that. So the rows go diagonally for that, so the numbers are different. And then this bottom one is for all the other methods, so whether you're using single crochet tapestry, cross stitch, the 2 double crochet method, or as today, the bobble stitch method, you want the bottom graph where then the stitches are numbered along this side, and the rows, the numbers along the bottom for the stitches, and the rows at the side. Okay, so that's the one we're going to use today. Okay, so the reason you will need your own copy of this is because I'm not going to take you through every single stitch and every single row, but I am going to show you how to start, and I'm going to show you how to do your colour changes, how to do the bobbles, and go from there. So pop that aside. Actually no, bring it in. Now the way you can work these bobble stitches is with the colours. Obviously you can use any colours you like, you don't have to use these colours. You can carry your colours through the other colours if you wish, or you can use bobbins. Now if you see my video, hopefully I'll remember to pop a link below to the introduction to working with graphs. I would have mentioned bobbins there. Now bobbins really are just a small amount of yarn wound around either some card, a peg, or something to just hold a small amount of yarn from the main ball, the main skein of yarn. And with this one, I'm using, for the tulip, I'm using a pink, and I'm using a darker sort of pinky plum colour for the outline of the tulip. Now if you look at this outline, we have some over this side, then in the middle, and then over this side of the middle, and then this side. Now when you're carrying yarn, maybe about 5 or 6 stitches is probably the max that you want to carry it, really. You can get to sort of wasting a lot of yarn if you keep carrying, but also if you keep joining yarn and having lots of tails and ends, then that uses quite a bit of yarn too. But the other thing to think about is whether the yarn will show through the stitches of a different colour. So what I've done for this, just to let you know what I've done, I'm going to show you some of it of carrying the colour through, and I'm going to show you some of it as using bobbins. So for the white, the background, I am using white, and there's 2 distinct sides of white. There's the right hand side and the left. it's separated by this green. I mean, technically there are 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm just going to carry my white through these few green stitches. Okay, I'm just going to carry it through those. So I said you can wind small amounts. You could also just use 2 balls of yarn. So I've got 2 balls of yarn here that I'm going to use for my 2 sides of white. Okay, and then for my green, as I said, I'm just going to carry it through those few white stitches. So I've got my green here, I'm just going to carry it through, but you could, by all means, you could make 3 bobbins of that. You could have so 2 bobbins and then your ball. Okay, you could do that. And then for the actual flower head, what I've decided is I've never got to carry the actual pink very far, only through a maximum of about 5 stitches. So I'm just going to continue with that and carry it through. But for the outline, because there's so many parts and there's a long part in the middle here, I've got 2. So I'm going to do all of this and this in one, and then all of this in the other. Okay, so that's what I've got to start with, but we don't need the flower head yet. That's later. We need our whites, or our background, and our stem and leaf colour. So green and white for me. And then this can be quite a yarn eater. So just because I wanted to make sure I definitely had enough for this video. I'm sure I would, because there's sort of nearly new balls of yarn. But I'm using a 4mm hook today. Normally I use a 4.5mm hook, but I'm using a 4mm today just to make sure that it kind of takes my yarn a bit further. I won't need to use quite as much yarn as I would with a 4.5mm. It will make my bobbles a bit tighter and maybe a little less squishy. So that's also to bear in mind. The looser you work, the more squishy your bobbles will be. Okay, so just make sure you've got enough yarn before you start, and one way you can do that is you can make a small amount of bobbles up first, and then you can unravel it, measure, and then do some maths on that, or you could weigh it and then do some maths, okay, which I did have a little go with as well. So that's pretty much all I've got to say before we start, other than maybe you might want to get a cup of tea or something before we start, as this will take a while, and don't try and do it in one sitting. You will need to move and have a stretch, and it will take a while. Okay, so let's actually get started on how we do a graph in Bobbles. Okay, so first things first, we need to do a foundation row of single crochets, and we need to double the amount of stitches on our graph. So this graph is 25, so we need to times it by 2 and then plus 1. So 25 times 2 plus 1, 51. So you need to chain 51 and then make 50 single crochets, or you can do 50 chainless foundation stitches if you know how to do that. I'm not going to show you that today, but there are plenty of YouTube videos to help you with that if you prefer that way. Okay, so chain 51, and then you're going to work in the second hook stitch from the hook, second chain from the hook, and make 50 single crochets. Okay, 51 chains, work in the second chain from the hook and make 50 single crochets. And I haven't actually said, but you want to do it in your background colour, so the colour that's your main colour on that bottom row, which for me is white. Okay, so I have 50 single crochets in my background colour. Don't you love it when you get to the end of that amount of stitches and you've got the right amount? It's like, yay! Okay, so I brought in my other white and my green ready to start the first row. This does not count as the first row. This is just your foundation row. Okay, just the foundation for your bubbles. Now if I bring this chart in, the only other thing I forgot to tell you is that because the bobbles naturally pop to the back of your work, you want to read your graph from left to right for the first row. Normally we would read right to left, but you want to read it from the left to the right, okay? And that's why this is written with the number 1 there. Okay, so we're going to start that way. If you're left-handed, you will want to start on the other side. Okay, so you're going to read it from the opposite direction to usual. So we're going to start row 1 over here, not over here, and that's why I've put these arrows so I know which row I'm starting on this side, and I've just marked which ones I'm starting on this side. So row 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why am I counting when there's numbers there? we have 11 white. Now this pattern is almost symmetrical. Okay, we have 11 white, and then we have 3 green, and then another 11 white. So we are going to start with 11 bobbles, and we're going to make a bobble, and then we're going to do a single crochet. Okay, for every stitch, for every square we do a bobble and a single crochet. Okay, and that's why we need double the amount of stitches. Bobble and single crochet for every square. So for the first 11 of the background, which in my case is white, we are going to, on every row, chain 1 and turn your work around. And then we're going to make a bobble, and the bobble is a 5 double crochet bobble, not a popcorn where we do the complete stitch. This is where we leave the last loop on the hook. So yarn over, go into your very first stitch, yarn over, pull through, just like a double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and you've got your last 2 loops on the hook. This loop is always on the hook, and then this is your new loop. Okay, so yarn over, this is for the second double crochet, insert into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then just as before we leave that last loop on the hook. So we will end up with 6 loops, 1 for every stitch and 1 for the hook. So we're going to do that 5 times in total. So 5 incomplete double crochets. So we yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops and leave that last one on the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 1 more to do. Through just 2 loops, and there we have 6 loops on the hook altogether, 1 for each stitch and 1 for the hook, and then yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. And then when we make our single crochet in the next stitch, so single crochet in the next stitch, and that is what makes that pop and become a bobble. So if I turn it over, you can see this is now a nice bobble. Okay, so this is why we are reading it left to right. If we're right-handed, we're reading it the opposite way, because otherwise, if this was from the right-hand side, it would be on the back. Okay, your bobble would be on the back, and that's not what we want. So we're going to do 11 of those all together. So the next stitch, go in as if to do a double crochet, and yarn over and pull through just 2 loops. We're going to do that 5 times all together. Every time you're going to get a new loop on your hook, and just keep going, counting to 5 times, or just checking for 6 loops on that hook. There we go, 6 loops, yarn over and pull through all 6 loops, and single crochet into the next stitch, and that makes your bobble and pop. There we go, nice bit of texture there. So I'll show you that once more. Yarn over as for a double crochet, go into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, leave the last loop on the hook, and again through the first 2 loops and leave the loop on the hook. Now we've got 4 loops, 5 loops and 6 loops. There we go. Yarn over, pull through, and a single crochet in the next. So we have now 3 bobbles. 3 bobbles there. Okay, so what you're going to do is 8 more. So remember, do your bobble in the next stitch and then do your single crochet, and your bobble will have 6 loops on the hook before you pull through. Okay, so make 8 more, making 11 altogether, and don't do your final single crochet. So on the next 8, make sure you do a single crochet after the bobble, but on the 11th we'll do that together. Okay, so I'll see you when I have 11 bobbles. Okay, so I have 11 bobbles with single crochets separating them, and on my graph I have marked off those first 11 boxes. Okay, so we're going to change and do 3 green now. So grab your green end in a moment. What we're going to do is the last single crochet for this last bobble. We're going to pull through and leave those 2 loops on our hook. We're going to bring this working white yarn down to the front, or well, this is the back of the work now. So you want to bring it down to this flat side, not down this side where the bobbles are. Okay, you want it on this flat side. Otherwise, on the next row, we're going to be bringing that up over the bobbles, and we don't really want to do that. So I'm going to bring that down to the side facing me, and then I'm going to bring up the green, leave a nice long tail for securing in later, and then finish off this stitch with your green. Okay, and now you can either leave this white if you've got another end of white to use after, or you can carry it across. So just hold it against your work and work over it. Okay, and you can do that with the green as well, but I prefer to sort of sew it in, make sure it's nice and secure. And also I don't want it to get in the way of showing you the work. So go straight into the next stitch and start your green bobble. Just make sure you don't pull this tail through as you're doing it. Okay, 6 loops, pull through. Now you can see this piece of yarn here went big, so big and loose. So all I'm going to do is just pull that in a little bit. Okay, pull that white a bit, and when I return to use the white on the next row, I will just pull that a little bit more securely before I start the next stitch. Okay, so then go into the next stitch and do your single crochet for that bobble, and then 2 more bobbles. Okay, and we will be changing to the white on the 3rd single crochet, so I'll join you to do that 3rd single crochet. Okay, there's my 3 green bobbles. So we're going to do our last single crochet. We're going to start it. So go into the stitch, pull through, leave those 2 loops on the hook, drop your yarn down but bring it towards you, and then you're going to get your next white, or if you were carrying your white across, you would just use the piece of white yarn that was here now. Okay, I'm bringing in my new piece, so again a nice long tail for sewing, and then pull that through, okay, to finish that stitch. So there we go, that's how we're doing that, and then we're going to start our next bobble with this white, and again you can work over this yarn or leave it to sew in. So go into the next stitch and do a bobble, go. And then again, just give a slight pull on those ends to pull that in. And then when we return to using the green in the next row, we will just slightly pull that in, make sure it's nice and tight before we use it again. But I will show you that when we come to it. So do your single crochet in the next stitch to finish that bubble. And then you will have 10 more to do to finish the row. So do your next 10 bubbles and single crochet, and then I will see you at the end of this row. So I finished my 11 bubbles, and do be sure to count those back just to make sure that you do have the right number. Just because you've finished your row doesn't always mean it's the right number, so just have a count back and make sure it's correct. Okay, so if I turn this around, here is what it's looking like from the front. So there we go. There is our first row of bubbles for our pattern. So love it, love it, love it. Now if it's curling a bit like so, don't panic, because by the time we've made some more rows it will uncurl a little more. Okay, so just give it a stretch out, and it will help it a bit, but it will lay a lot flatter and straighter as we progress. Okay, so we're going to work our second row, but not the second row of the graph, just the second row of our work. Okay, so basically it's row 1 part 2. Okay, every row has 2 parts. The first part of the row is doing your bubbles, okay, following the graph and doing your bubbles. So we did 11 white, 3 green, and then 11 white, and I have marked all those off and I've put a line through row 1. Okay, so you will need your graph possibly to just follow back if you can't quite tell what stitches you've got. Okay, but you should be able to tell what colours you've got. If you're doing a graph where the colours are very, very close together, you might want to refer to the graph again. Okay, so we're going to work back along our row. So what you might want to do is, I'll just turn this around and around, and I've got in a tangle, and I was going to tell you how not to get in a tangle. So what you might want to do is turn your, move your balls of yarn around, or your bobbins. Okay, so that they're now in the reverse order. So when I turn my work, they are not tangled. This is the plan. They are now not tangled. Okay, so that is what you can do. The other thing is, if you don't want to get them in a tangle, is you can pop them in sort of a box or a basket. If they were upright like so, put them in a box or basket, and then each time you can just turn your box or basket around, and that will work too. It's completely up to you. Some people don't mind them getting in a tangle, and it's absolutely fine. So now we've got those tails going on as well, plus our yarn. Don't panic, it will all be good. So what you're going to do now is a single crochet in every stitch. Start your row with a chain 1, as I said before. Every row starts with a chain 1, and then you're going to do a single crochet in your single crochet, and then a single crochet in the top of your bubble, single crochet in the single crochet, single crochet in the bubble. Okay, and if you can either count 50 across, or you can say to yourself bubble, single crochet, bubble, single crochet. Completely up to you, but just make sure that you are doing 1 single crochet in each. Okay, sometimes it can be difficult to tell which is the single crochet and which is the bubble, but just work along, and as long as you are doing the right amount of stitches, you'll be fine. But just say to yourself bubble, single crochet. That's how I prefer to do it. Bubble, single crochet, and I'm just going to keep going because it's not going to take long. I'm going to keep going until we get to that green, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. So bubble, single crochet, and this sort of saying to yourself single crochet, bubble, single crochet, bubble, just means that when you get to the colour change, you will have done the correct amount of stitches and you will be in the right place to do your colour change. Okay, so nearly there. And this just gives us the foundation for the next row of stitches. Okay, so we're going to do that bobble, and then the single crochet was after the bobble, remember? So actually this last one, we need to keep the last 2 loops on the hook, and then we're going to drop our yarn down, and this time we're going to drop our yarn to the back of our work. Okay, we don't want it over here by the bobbles because then we'll have to work it over bobbles later, so over the front. So make sure that yarn's dropped at the back on that flat side. Okay, and then bring up your green, that's that white tail. It will become easier the further up you get, the further away from your tails you get, the easier it will become. Okay, so pull that green through and just tighten that white a little bit. Okay, and remember you can tighten that when you come back to it on the next row. And then you're going to do your single crochet in green, so green on green, white on white, and that is that. So let me just do these green ones with you, and then I will just do the last colour change with you and leave you to do the rest. So single crochet, and then it's the bobble, leave the last loop on the hook, pop your yarn to the back and pick up the white that you left there last time. Okay, and pull that through. Give a slight tug on that green just to pull that stitch down, and then do your single crochet in that white. And then continue all the way to the end, making sure that you'll be finishing in your last bobble with a single crochet. Okay, so remember, if you had 11 bobbles, you'll be doing 22 single crochets. Okay, so twice the amount. And I will see you at the end of this row. Okay, there is my row of single crochets on top. Okay, nice and neat. And all I do at the end is I just give a tug, just stretch it out, because the single crochets can pull in tighter, just to make sure that your work doesn't start sort of pulling in a bit. So just give it a stretch, and there we go. Okay, so it's time to turn the work around. So again, you can flip your bobbins or balls of yarn around, or if you've got them in a box or basket. And it's time to move on to row 2. So remember, we're on this side now. I've got an arrow there pointing in this direction. So this row is actually exactly the same as the previous. We've got 11 of the white, and then we've got 3 of the green, and then another 11 white. Okay, so that's nice and simple because you're just following exactly what you did on the previous row. You're going to start with your chain 1, as we do for every row, and then turn your work around. You're going to do a bobble in this very first stitch, which you know how to do by now. It's 5 of those incomplete double crochets, leaving 6 loops on your hook. Nice and simple. This is not a difficult method at all. It's just remembering to do a single crochet after every bobble, so single crochet in the next stitch, and remembering to change colour in those last 2 loops of the stitch, and just following your graph of what you need to do. So do these 11 white bobbles, and then we'll do the colour change together. Again, I'll just show you how you bring that yarn up to continue, and then I'll leave you to do a few rows yourself possibly. So continue these 11 bobbles, and we'll do the last single crochet together. So I have 11 bobbles done. And as I've said to you before, just make sure that you're keeping a track of what stitches you've done. Just mark them off, or use a ruler or something. It's much easier to mark them off though, unless obviously if you're using it on a screen, then just move your sticky note or something. Keep a good track of where you are. This one's very straightforward, but if you come into doing bigger ones or ones with much more colour changes, then it can start to get a little complicated. So just keep a track of where you are. Okay, so let's do this colour change. I have done my last bobble, and then I'm going to go and do my single crochet for this bobble, and I'm going to leave those last 2 loops on the hook, bring this yarn to the front towards me, so it's on this back of the work. Okay, and then remember I said we can tighten this green when we come back to it on the next row, so just give that a slight pull just to tighten that stitch there. Okay, and then do your yarn through the rest of that white stitch. Okay, so you've got your white down here ready for next time, which again you will just tighten that stitch up on the next row. Okay, and then you're going to continue and make your 3 green bobbles. So you're going to do bobble, single crochet, bobble, single crochet, bobble, single crochet, and then on that last single crochet of green you will do, as we've done here, you'll do it over here, and you will bring this white and you'll go through those last 2 loops of your single crochet. Before that, you'll just give a slight tug on this white and tighten that up. Okay, and then you'll continue with your last 11 bobbles and single crochets for the end of the row. Okay, so I will see you at the end of this row. Okay, row 2 of bobbles is finished. Let's flip it over and you can see, there we go. Love it, love it. Great effect there. So the next thing we have to do is our single crochet row on top of these bobbles. So again, we're going to do the the single crochets in the exact same colours that we've done here. So the colour changes will be exactly as we've done them before. You will change colour in the last 2 loops of the white and the last 2 loops of the green. Okay, so chain 1 and then turn your work around and work your 11 bobble and 11 single crochets. You'll work a single crochet into each of those, so that will be 22, and in that last one, the 22nd single crochet, you will change colour to the green, and then you'll do your 6 single crochets changing to the white in your last green single crochet, and then you'll do another 22 single crochets to finish the row. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do that, and I will see you for the next row. So just do these colours in single crochet for the next row. Okay, there's my row finished. Turned it around, you can see it all. There's my row 2 finished with its single crochet top. So you can see they all line up nicely. Okay, so for the next row, which will be row 3, remember the single crochets don't count as a row of our graph. They just are the second part of the bobble row. Okay, so I've marked off all my stitches on my graph, all the stitches that we've done, and we're going to start on row 3 now, and that's got a line here, so we're starting this side and we're going to read it across. So this is where it becomes not symmetrical anymore, because we've got 7 white blocks here, but we've got 8 over this side. Okay, so it's not quite symmetrical, just to kind of change it up a bit with the design. Okay, so chain 1 and turn your work, and then start your bobbles in exactly the same way as you're used to doing a bobble, single crochet, bobble, single crochet, and then in your 7th single crochet we will change to the green. Now if you look here, your last green was down here, okay, and we need to go over to here. So I will join you to do that stitch and to show you how to bring that yarn up and work over it. If you know how to do that already, then great, go ahead and just skip the video. If you don't know how to do that, then keep watching and I'll show you that in just a moment. So chain 1 and work 7 bobbles, and I'll join you for your 7th single crochet. Okay, I've done 7 bobbles and I'm on my last single crochet. So as before, I'm going to bring my yarn towards me so that I can leave it on this side for next time, and then I'm going to grab the green. Now the green is right over here, so this is where I could have brought in another bobbin, but it's really not necessary. So all you need to do is bring your yarn over and through your loops just as you've done before, and then what you want to do is make sure it's not really loose and sloppy like so, okay, but also you don't want it so tight that your work is curling over. See this? It's curling over because it's too tight. You want it to lay nice and flush against your work, okay, maybe slightly tighter than you think you need because you're likely to sort of it loosen slightly on this first stitch. Okay, so we're just going to leave that white yarn there, and then we're going to start our bobble by yarning over, go into that next stitch and make sure that this strand of yarn is above where you go in, okay, and then pull through, and now you can see this yarn is in between the loops on our hook and the working yarn, so that's going to get trapped and hidden inside the stitch. Okay, so continue making your partial double crochets. Don't do what I did and catch on that. Make sure you don't pull it through by mistake. So just work through that stitch. Oops, again, see I just caught it there, but just make sure it's still there at the end. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 loops, and now I should have 6 loops. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. Oh no, I did one too many, so let's just take one off there. Let's take one off there, and let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6, pull through. Okay, and then you're going to go in the next stitch and do your single crochet. Again, make sure that piece of yarn is at the top and pull through, and there's your single crochet, and this yarn is going to be trapped in between inside all of your stitches. Okay, so then start your next bobble just as before, making sure that yarn just goes inside your stitches. If your hook gets caught, just let the piece go. Okay, one more. I can't count today. One more. There we go. Got caught. Just let that out and finish. There we go. Okay, so just continue as before, and that is all you need to do to carry your yarn across. And you're not really wasting a huge amount of yarn, because if you had started a new bobbin or ball of yarn, remember you would have had you would have had this tail. Okay, you would have had a tail for the start, and then you'd have a tail for the end. So this short piece of yarn is not as long as a tail. Okay, so you're not really wasting much yarn at all. Okay, so keep working those bobbles in green until you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 green bobbles. Okay, when you have 7 green, we want 10 altogether. When you've got 7 bobbles, if you look, your white is here by that 7th, or ready for the 8th. Okay, so I've done my 7 bobbles and 7 single crochets. We need to carry this white across for the last 3 stitches. Okay, so just do your 7 bobbles and single crochets excuse me, and then you're going to work the next bobble by holding this white up against your work. If you're okay, if you're not already carrying a white, if you're using bobbins, then carry this white up. Okay, so just go under there into the next stitch and start your next bobble, making sure that you are working under this piece of white for every stitch you're doing in this bobble, okay, so that it gets trapped inside. Let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so pull through, and then you're going to go under it for your single crochet as well, and then continue working, going under it to trap your white yarn through there and carry it through your bobbles and through your single crochets. Okay, so I'm just going to do these stitches with you actually until we get to where we're going to change to white, because we're almost there. So that's 2. Do your single crochet again, take that white with you. Let me just see how many I've got. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. One more bobble. Again, take that white with you, go under it, do your last bobble, so you just need to be aware of where your yarn is and whether you need to carry it through or not, whether you need to sort of carry it with you. Just check where your yarn is, and your graph will show you that you need to carry. Remember, we looked here and we could see with this green that it was going to go across, okay, and then if we looked here we can see that we finished our white here, but we needed to go up to here, so we needed to sort of bring it with us over these last 3 stitches. Okay, so just look at your graph and see where those colour changes take place and where you need to carry or bring it forward in advance. Okay, so we're on our last single crochet. So this yarn that you've carried, just give it a slight tug to make sure it's not caught up anywhere or got any sort of bulges of yarn showing anywhere. And then, as before, we're going to drop our green down towards us, and we're going to change to the white. And then we're going to do 8 white bobbles to finish this row. Okay, so, and there are 8 on the row below, so that's correct. So 8 bobbles in white to finish this row. Okay, there we go, at the end of that row. I'll just turn it over, so you can see. There we go. Looking good. I love this. Looking good. Okay, so the next thing to do is to do your chain 1 and then work all the way back across with your single crochets, and I think by now you can do the colour changes yourself. The yarn is all at the correct place. If you're using bobbins, if you're carrying yarn, then just continue with what you're doing there. So work your way back across with your single crochets, and then I will join you for the next row, which will be row 4, and that's where I'm going to leave you after row 4. Okay, so I'm going to do row 4 with you in a moment, and then I'll leave you for a while to continue. So do your single crochets on the next row in the same colours, and then I'll join you back. Okay, there we go, at the end of my single crochets. Now you can see this is curving a bit, so as I've told you before, at the end of each row just of single crochets, just give it a tug and straighten it out, and there you go, sorted. Okay, just do that at the end of each single crochet row, and it will just help to keep it straighter, because if you don't, then you could see it's gradually going to go like this, and we don't want that. So there we go, at the end of row 3. Okay, so let's bring this graph in and have a look. Okay, so we have done these 3 rows. Did I say the end of row 4, end of row 3? I don't know, I'm confused. We have done 3 rows Okay, now I'm going to go through the next row with you because this is where we start to have 4 sections of white, and I only have 2 bobbins, 2 sets of white. Okay, so and you might have used just one the whole way through. You might have carried your white through these, but if you have done it the way that I suggested at the beginning, then this could be helpful. So we're going to start here, and we're going to do 6 white bobbles, and then we've got 4 green, and then we've got a white, green, white, green, white. So I am going to say to you, do your 6 white and 4 green. Okay, 6 white, 4 green, and I will see you after I've done 4 green bobbles. So 6 white, 4 green. Okay, apologies. You need to see the carry through from your 6 white. So if you haven't started your blue, your green yet, then here we go. So sorry about that. I just realised that I needed to show you the carry through, which I haven't really done before much. So I've done my 6th white single crochet. I have those 2 loops on there, so pull the green through and then pull the green through with the white at the back. So let's do that again correctly. So single crochet, 2 loops on the hook, white towards you, bring the green through, and then we're going to work over. Last time we worked over this carried piece of green, this time we're going to work over the white that's being carried as well as that piece of green. So we're going to do our first bobble, and we've got trapped there, we've got the white working yarn and the green piece of yarn there. So you're just going to work your bobble as usual, making sure that you've got both the white and the green being enclosed in that bobble. And there's 6 loops. So then we're going to go under this tiny bit of green here, and we've got the white there as well, so into that stitch, into the whole stitch, there we go, and we're going to work over this white for our single crochet, and then we're going to carry this white along the back here whilst working the rest of our 4 green bobbles. Okay, and then we will change over to the white for the 4th single crochet. Okay, so I'll see you for the 4th green single crochet. Okay, when you've done 4 green bobbles and you've started your 4th single crochet, just give a slight tug on that white to make sure that it's not gathered up anywhere or caught, and then just bring your green down towards you. Okay, bring your green towards you, and then pull your white through to finish that stitch. And then this time, because I'm only using one end of green yarn, I could use 3 separate ones, but I'm just using one. So we're going to carry the green through for just one bobble. Okay, so we're going to make 1 white bobble whilst carrying the green. So go into the next stitch and do a white bobble. Come back to you in a second. Okay, white bobble, and then the start of the white single crochet, remembering to put that green yarn above and start it there. Okay, so then we're going to drop the white towards us, pick up the green, and just give a slight tug on that green to make sure it's not loose anywhere, and pull it through those loops of the white. Okay, and then we are going to do here, you can see we've done these 4 and then this 1, and then we're going to do 3 green, and then we're going to change to white. So do your 3 green whilst carrying that white, and then you're going to change back to white. Okay, so do the 3 green, and I'll join you just to move, change back to the white on that 3rd green single crochet. Okay, so I started my 4th green single crochet, so I'm going to just give a slight tug on my white to make sure it's not loose or caught up, and I'm going to bring this green down towards me and pull through those last 2 loops with the white, if I don't lose that off my hook. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to do this 1 square, 1 bobble of white, and then we're going to change back to the green. Okay, and I will leave my white exactly where it is when I finished. So I'm just going to carry the green with us for this 1 bobble. Okay, so I've done that bobble. I'm just going to do the single crochet or start it, and then I'm going to drop that white down, bring up the green, and pull through those last 2 loops of white. And now I'm going to leave that white to pick up on the next row, because I'm going to do some more bobbles of green, and then I have my 2nd white here already. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 bobbles of green, and then my finish with white. So I've only got room here for 3 green. The 4th green will be here, so we will need to carry this white across 1 bobble. Okay, so do pick up your white along the way, making sure that you carry that along so it's ready, because if not, you'll just have a piece of yarn going across your work which won't look as good. Okay, so so leave this white one where it is, do 4 green, and then change to white and do 6 white. So 4 green and 6 white. Okay, there's the back of my work after doing those other stitches. So we finished with 6 white bubbles. So let me flip it around, and there we go. Awesome. How good does that look? And those bubbles are so cute, so cute. Love it, love it, love it. Takes a bit of yarn, takes a bit of time and work, but I love it, and it's so worth it. So worth it. So I've shown you how to carry your white through if you need to sort of get from here to here to here to here. Okay, so I am going to leave you to do the rest of the graph on your own. So, oops, there goes my hook on the floor. So I'm going to leave you to work the rest of these rows and carrying your yarn through the centre if you need to, or using your bobbins. And then when you get up to here, to row 11, you will just be doing this 1 green bobble, and then you'll be able to cut your green, and you'll be introducing your flower colour, so whatever colour you're introducing there. So I'll be bringing in my bobbins of the outside colour, the darker colour, and then I've got some for the flower colour inside. So I am going to leave you to do this graph. So you will need to get a copy of the graph to follow. I'm going to leave you to do the rest of it. Don't forget that for this row, you do need to do your row of single crochet back along. Okay, so don't forget to carry those colours through again. So make your single crochet row, and then you'll be moving on to the next row. Okay, what I will do is I will take some photos of maybe not every row, but I'll take some photos as I progress along, and I will pop them in the video just after this, so you'll be able to see the progression of this square. And then I'll join you at the end when I've finished. I will join you to show you the finished piece. Okay, so have fun, and I will be back when I've finished. And yeah, so I'll see you soon.